This is Booked for Drama, where stories burn, hearts break, the tea is always hot and never a part 2. Today we're diving into After Losing My Memory, I Forgot I Was the Villain, and Became Everyone's Favorite. Let's go. After losing my memory, I forgot that I was once the story's evil supporting character. I sent out a mass apology to all my friends. Sorry, I lost my memory. May I ask who you are? My phone immediately lit up with 4 new messages, from the aloof childhood friend I used to bully. What's this? Another creative way to torment me? Your lunch is downstairs. Don't forget to eat. From the loyal stepbrother I used to give a hard time. Still mad at your brother? I transferred some pocket money to your card. Come home and keep me company tonight. From the badass female lead I used to tease. Starting your act again? Lost your memory? Then go back to bed. I already signed you in for class. Me? Wait, was I actually the pampered one in this story? In the hospital, doctors and nurses came and went. The air smelled sharply of disinfectant. I forced myself upright, my head still woozy and light. Not far away, I overheard the doctor talking to a middle-aged man. How is she doing now? Miss Green's memory loss isn't too severe. She's just forgotten specific individuals. Hearing their conversation, I froze slightly. Memory loss? I lost my memory? That can't be. I don't think I'm amnesiac. I couldn't help but interrupt. My name is Joyce Green. My dad's name is Andy Green. My mum is Amy Green. The middle-aged man turned toward me with a kind smile. Then do you remember who I am, miss? I nodded confidently. Of course. You're our family's butler, Jones. There was a long pause before he replied. His expression was complicated. Miss, I'm your family's driver. And my name's not Jones. It's Henry. Me. What? He sighed, then turned back to the doctor. I'll go ahead and contact her parents. Thanks for your help. From their short exchange, I pieced together that I'd fallen down the library stairs, lost consciousness, and was rushed to the hospital by my classmates. Once they left the room, I finally came to my senses and grabbed my phone. Looking at the pinned contacts, I almost thought I'd picked up someone else's phone. If not for the presence of my parents just then, a contact labeled, Cold Monster, sent 2 messages, come downstairs and get your food in 30 minutes. Too lazy to find someone to bring it up to you. I racked my brain but couldn't remember who he was. So I asked, did you get me lunch? He replied quickly. Each word felt sharp, like it was laced with thorns, getting Miss Green her lunch as part of my job. But next time, if you want something other than cafeteria food, could you say so earlier? I waited in line for 30 minutes. You'll be late eating now. Polite, but also passive-aggressive? But this really wasn't the time to be worrying about food. I quickly replied, no need. I won't eat today. There was a long pause. Even though I couldn't see his face through the screen, I could feel his annoyance radiating through. Because the breakfast I brought wasn't to your liking? So now you're mad again? I hurried to explain. No, really. I lost my memory. He responded coldly. Is this another one of Miss Green's new tactics to torment me? Me? Was I really that awful? Worried he wouldn't believe me, I sent him a photo. I'm not lying. I'm literally still in a hospital bed right now. There was no reply for a long time. Maybe he passed out from anger, or maybe he just didn't care anymore. I scrolled through our chat history. This cold monster had been delivering meals, picking up packages, buying milk tea, even helping me cheat on homework and exams. And in return, my messages were bossy, entitled, and dismissive. A wave of guilt welled up in me. How could I speak to a classmate like that? Joyce? The hospital door suddenly swung open. A boy rushed in, wearing a simple white short-sleeved shirt. His features were clean and sharp, his bones well-defined, even his slender fingers clutching the lunchbox looked elegant. I was briefly stunned. Even with amnesia, it seemed my superficial tastes hadn't changed. My standards for a dream guy remained intact. I looked up at him carefully. Are you, Cold Monster? His body visibly tensed. He pressed his lips together and asked softly, you don't remember who I am? I frowned, thinking hard. Are you, Cold Monster? His expression turned complicated. My name's Tim. Tim reached out to check the bump on my forehead. You fell down the stairs? Was it serious? Seeing me frozen, he quickly withdrew his hand, voice turning cold again. I'm not worried about you. I'm just afraid you'll blame me again for it later. Just a few words, and I could already picture how selfish and unreasonable I used to be. I felt even more ashamed. Seeing I said nothing, he added in a low voice, You really don't remember me? I answered honestly, no, but based on our chat logs, I assume you're someone who runs errands for me a lot. Tim, not exactly. I looked at him doubtfully. He took a deep breath and said slowly, We grew up together. Still no reaction from me. He added, more flatly, and we have been engaged since childhood. What? I stared, but based on our chat history, it didn't seem like that at all. I thought we were barely acquaintances. Tim laughed bitterly. If we weren't that close, why would I run errands for you every day? Why would I go out of my way to buy your meals, save you a seat? I blinked in confusion. But you just said getting my food was your job. Tim raised an eyebrow. Yes. Isn't that a fiancé's duty? Just then, the driver, Henry, walked into the room and was startled to see Tim. Tim, what are you doing here? Tim stood up politely and smiled. Jess came to check on her. Henry was about to pull up a chair when Tim turned to him and said, By the way, Henry, Joyce doesn't believe we grew up together. Can you confirm that we're engaged? Henry's eyes widened. Wait, what? He looked between Tim's calm face and my baffled expression. After a moment of silence, he nodded with a complicated expression. Well, yes, that's true. The first person I saw when I woke up was Henry. He had been the one running around to handle my hospital paperwork, contacting my parents, making sure I was okay. Naturally, I developed some trust in him. And Tim didn't look like he was joking either. The more I thought about it, the more secretly delighted I became. My dream guy had just been upgraded to my fiancé. I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. Turns out, even with memory loss, I still fell for the same person at first sight. When Henry stepped out to take a phone call, Tim placed the food box on the bedside table and handed me utensils. Eat first, he said. I glanced at the food and smiled. What a coincidence, these are all my favorites. Tim looked down and ladled soup into a bowl for me, his tongue calm. Not a coincidence. You gave me the exact menu this morning. Guilt welled up in my chest. Duh, wasn't that too much trouble for you? Tim wiped his hands with a napkin and answered indifferently, Not really. I'm used to it. Feeling a bit moved, I tugged gently on his sleeve. Then, let's eat together? His body froze. He rubbed his nose and cleared his throat twice. I only bought one portion. I blinked. Don't we usually eat together? Tim turned his head away, pretending to look out the window. We do, but I already ate today. I didn't question it further, feeling reassured. As he sipped water, I ate while chattering away. Tim, honestly, when I saw you earlier, I felt like I remembered something. He choked on his water and coughed violently, nearly losing his composure. You remembered? His voice cracked a little, no longer cool and composed like before. I nodded. Yeah, the moment I saw you, I just felt like we were meant to be together. Engaged since childhood? You really do feel like my destined husband. I grinned. And even though I've lost my memory, my taste in men hasn't changed at all. My ideal husband looks just like you. A faint blush spread across Tim's jade-like features. His ears turned so red they looked like they were burning. He suddenly jumped up, nearly knocking over the bedside table. I looked at him in confusion. Tim steadied himself with great effort, but the color in his cheeks betrayed his flustered state. He waved his phone a little. My group just sent out a notice. I have to go back. I need to hand in something to my advisor this afternoon. Understanding, I nodded and said gently, then go. I'm already feeling better. I'll rest for a bit and should be fine by evening. Tim relaxed slightly and softened his voice. I'll come visit you again later. Then he practically fled the room. I couldn't help sighing. Graduate students really have it tough. One message from your advisor is like a death sentence. Just then, Henry returned and was surprised to see I was alone. "Tim already left?" I nodded with a cheerful smile. "Yeah, he said he'd come back later." Henry seemed relieved. Then he said, "The doctor suggests having a close family member visit. Your parents are abroad and can't return right away, so should I contact your brother?" "My brother? I have a brother?" Seeing the confusion on my face, Henry didn't seem surprised. He took my phone, tapped on the screen and handed it back to me. "This is your brother." I looked down and saw a profile picture of a beagle wearing sunglasses. My contact note for him: a wishing machine that spits gold coins. There weren't many chat messages, just a history of money transfers, and instances where he'd immediately dealt with people who upset me, as if I'd bought myself a 24-hour premium vengeance service. "Joyce, you might not remember this, but Jack Green is your older brother, not by blood, though. Your parents adopted him. He's 3 years older than you and has always looked after you." Henry explained gently. I nodded in understanding and sent a message to the contact. "Brother," he replied instantly, 50 question marks in a row. I had no idea what he was freaking out about, but I kept typing obediently. "Are you free right now? Wishing machine that spits gold coins, totally free. What's wrong? Who bullied you? Send me his info, I'll take care of it. Need money? I'll transfer it right now. Also, what did you just call me? Say it again, please." Such a weird brother, such a weird request. Still, I humored him. "Brother, can you come to the hospital?" Another row of question marks. Then came a voice call. I've always hated answering phone calls, even more so now that I have amnesia. So I hit declined without hesitation. Wishing machine that spits gold coins. What? Why didn't you pick up? What's going on? Scammer, huh? If this is a phone scam, I hope your whole family rots. Give her back her account or I'll end you. Me, I didn't feel like answering. Too lazy. Wishing machine that spits gold coins. Oh, so it's actually you. Me, I lost my memory. He sent another flood of question marks. Truly on brand with that beagle profile pic. Wishing machine that spits gold coins. "So, do you still remember who I am?" A little annoyed, I replied, "Of course. You're my brother, aren't you? Wishing machine that spits gold coins. Yes, yes, your favorite brother. Please don't give yourself weird titles." I pretended not to see it and continued, "If you're free, can you come to the hospital? The doctor wants to speak with family. Wishing machine that spits gold coins, send me the address?" After sending him my location, I added quickly so he wouldn't worry, "Don't stress. I'm not in serious condition. A wishing machine that spits gold coins, got it. Brother is on the way." Smiling face. I reassured him again, "No rush, Henry's here with me. My fiancé came to see me just now too." There was a pause on his end. Then another row of exploding question marks. Followed by a furious message, "Fiancé? The hell? Who the hell is that?" Not long after, Jack came rushing in. He was still in a formal shirt and blazer, though the sharp haircut and silver earring in his left ear didn't exactly match the outfit. "Joyce?" He sat down at my bedside, his face full of emotion and hope. "So you lost your memory but still remembered me?" I blinked. Not really, no." "Jack, huh?" I pulled out my phone and handed it to him with a helpful smile. "Henry told me this guy with the beagle profile pic is my brother." Jack glanced at the screen, and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Why did you name me a wishing machine that spits gold coins?" Honestly, at this point, I felt like everyone I'd met today should be the one lying in a hospital bed instead of me. How would I know? If I remembered that, it wouldn't be amnesia. Jack, fair enough. He didn't seem like the most reliable brother, but he was the only family member around right now. I tugged at his sleeve and whispered, "Brother, can I be discharged? I want to go home." His heart instantly turned to mush. "Of course. I'll handle the paperwork right away." He strode quickly toward the door, then suddenly turned back and cleared his throat. "Oh right, Joyce, I almost forgot to tell you something." I looked up at him curiously. Jack took a deep breath and said with utmost sincerity, "At home, you always call me brother." Half an hour later, I was in the car heading home. Jack, seated beside me, kept asking, "Do you want a drink? Snacks?" I shook my head with a smile. "No, thank you, brother." Jack, then how about music? A mobile game? Still, I shook my head. "Thanks, but really, you don't need to fuss." He seemed completely content just savoring the way I called him brother. And finally turned his attention back to the road. As I scrolled through our chat history, I asked curiously, "Brother, why do I get the feeling our relationship wasn't all that great before?" Jack reacted like a cat stepped on its tail. "Who said that? Who?" I handed him the phone and replied honestly, "I saw it myself. And I didn't speak to you very nicely either." Jack looked like he was about to cry with joy. "Not nice? What are you talking about? I thought it was great. Brother, are you okay?" According to the messages, I bossed Jack around like a servant. If I was unhappy about anything, I'd unleash insults on him like a storm. And yet, Jack never once argued back. He just endured it all in silence. In the end, he'd always add something like, "Don't be mad, it's all my fault. Here, I sent you some money. Buy a bag and cheer up." What the heck? Was I really that awful? Jack, on the other hand, started listing out my virtues, one by one. "Look, when someone upsets you, you ask me to go beat 'em up. Isn't that you worrying about my health? You just don't want me to get out of shape, so you make sure I get regular exercise. And every week, you ask me for money. Why? Because you know I tend to waste it. So you cut it off at the source and help me save it. Besides, you don't buy junk, you buy gold on luxury handbags. That's called preserving value. You're managing my finances. And yeah, your tone can be a little blunt sometimes. But it's okay, we're family. You know what they say, the ones who love you the most are the ones who hurt you the most with their words. You love me the most, so I totally understand." I was speechless. We drove into a quiet villa neighborhood. As I stepped out of the car, Jack held up a sun umbrella for me. Then he suddenly asked, "By the way, you said your fiancé came to visit you earlier. Who was it?" I beamed. "He said his name is Tim. Do you know him?" Jack went silent. Then, through gritted teeth, he muttered, "Damn it, our house got robbed. If he says anything sweet or charming, don't believe a word of it. He may look pure and harmless on the outside, but he's rotten to the core, an expert liar." Just then, a voice scoffed in the distance. "Oh, is that your self-introduction?" I turned toward the staircase. A girl stood there, arms crossed, smirking at us. I glanced at Jack in confusion. Wait, I thought I only had a brother. Did I have a sister too? Jack hesitated. "That's Jessica." He watched my face carefully as he explained, "She's Aunt Lily's daughter. Her family's house is being renovated, so our parents said she could stay here on weekends." Henry mentioned earlier that we had a housekeeper who'd been with us for over 20 years. That must be Lily. Since I didn't react, Jack leaned closer and whispered, "Don't worry about her. Let's go upstairs and get you some rest. And don't forget to take your medicine later." Jessica raised an eyebrow when she overheard that, but stepped aside nonchalantly to let us pass. As I made my way up the stairs, I noticed she was still standing by the front door. Sensing my gaze, she looked up and met my eyes. Jessica was stunning, the kind of girl who'd make heads turn on the street. Her peach blossom eyes tilted slightly upward, giving her a naturally aloof charm. I tilted my head and waved at her with a smile. She blinked in surprise, pausing for a moment before looking away. The next morning, I got a string of video calls from my parents. My mum was sobbing on the screen. I had to coax and reassure her, telling her the doctor would check on me later, and that I was recovering well. Only then did they finally calm down. Just as I hung up, a loud argument erupted downstairs. I shuffled to the railing in my slippers and peeked down. Jack and Tim were both standing there, faces equally dark. Jessica, meanwhile, sat comfortably on the couch watching TV like she had front row seats. Jack gritted his teeth and glared. "You actually had the nerve to tell her you're her fiancé while she's lost her memory? Have you no shame?" Tim poured himself a glass of water, unfazed. I wasn't lying. We really are engaged. Jack looked ready to punch him. You call it an engagement? Neither of you even showed up to the ceremony. You two fought like enemies. You hated how she always ordered you around using the fiancé title. Why don't you mention that? Tim, ever the calm one, corrected him patiently. That's not entirely true. We got along fine before high school. You're misremembering. That's not the point. Jack exploded. I've never seen anyone as shameless as you. Jessica, who had been silently spectating, finally chimed in lazily, oh please. You're not exactly Mr. Integrity either. Jack, excuse me. Jessica yawned. You insist she call you brother. But at home, no one even uses your name. You've always just been, hey, you. And you're the one who keeps bragging about how clingy she is. But let's be real, weren't you the one always clinging to her like a sticker? Only then did Jack snap out of it, turning his rage toward her. Damn it, I was too busy scolding Tim and forgot about you. Jessica, this is my house. What kind of tone is that? Jessica replied lazily, I know. If your parents hadn't let me stay here, do you think I'd want to? The tension downstairs was practically electric. I had no idea what dimension I'd woken up in. After hesitating for a moment, I called out, what are you all talking about? All three of them immediately looked up toward the second floor. Jack was the first to recover. He plastered on a smile and said cheerfully, Joyce, we're just having a chat. Is that what you call chatting? Because it sounds more like growling. I tilted my head and let my gaze skip past Jack, landing on Tim behind him. Tim, you're here too. Tim brushed past Jack as if it were only natural and walked toward me. His tone softened considerably. I'm here to take you back to school. Jack grabbed him by the collar. You? Take her? What am I, dead? The two of them turned to me at the same time. Joyce? My eyes drifted toward Jessica, who was quietly sipping tea like the argument had nothing to do with her. Jessica, do you also go to S University? She wasn't expecting the question to be directed at her. She choked slightly on her tea, then quickly wiped her mouth with a tissue, trying to regain composure. Yeah, why? I smiled brightly. Then I'll go back with you. On the way back, Jessica barely said a word to me. Henry, clearly feeling the tension, tried to ease things by explaining Jessica's background. I learned that Jessica had spent a lot of time at our house when we were little. Though she was the daughter of our longtime housekeeper, my parents had always been kind and affectionate toward her. She had been quiet and reserved since childhood, very different from me. Henry got a bit too comfortable and forgot to hold back. Joyce, you and Jessica grew up together. Whatever happened later on, just talk it out. You're still friends. I frowned. Jessica and I had a falling out. There was a brief silence, broken only by two people coughing at the same time. Jessica quickly changed the subject. Her eyes remained on the view outside the window, voice cool and even. Your brother said you lost your memory. You're not faking again, are you? Before I could speak, Henry quickly cut in, of course not. I helped file all her hospital paperwork myself. Jessica was momentarily caught off guard and fell silent. I glanced at her propped-up head as she stared blankly outside, clearly lost in thought. Unable to help myself, I asked in a small voice, Jessica, what kind of person was I before? She didn't turn around, but she spoke to me plainly. Why don't you ask Jack or Tim? I rested my face in my hands and sighed. Those two keep giving me sugar-coated versions of everything. I don't trust what they say. Jessica turned her head back and looked at me, her tone casual as she listed my faults. You were selfish, arrogant, temperamental and downright cruel. If anything didn't go your way, you threw a tantrum, like someone else had taken over your body. I was stunned. She remained calm. I just told you all that. Do you believe me? I thought for a moment, then nodded. This time, it was Jessica who looked surprised. I think you're right, I said seriously. I must have been a terrible person. I looked through my chat history. There's no way I was as nice as those two made me out to be. Jessica frowned slightly, opened her mouth, but said nothing in the end. So, did I used to bully Jack a lot? I asked nervously. You stayed at our house often, right? You would know. I reached out and lightly tugged her arm. She flinched, not quite used to the contact, but didn't pull away. After a brief pause, she propped her chin up with one hand and replied offhandedly, "Yeah, Jack was your #1 lackey. If you wanted something, he got it for you. If you wanted stars from the sky, he'd try to find a way to fetch them. He spoiled you rotten, but if he failed to deliver something you asked for, you'd either scold or punish him. No in-betweens." I swallowed hard, my nose stinging, my voice shaking. I didn't hit him, did I? My palms suddenly felt sore, as if remembering something. I recalled the gentle smile Jack wore earlier that day, and the guilt nearly crushed me. Jessica glanced at me, her expression unreadable. "What are you imagining?" "No, not like that, not fists or kicks." I blinked. "Then what kind of punishment was it?" She waved dismissively, clearly uncomfortable. "Let's just say, think of it as a reward. He liked it, okay?" The car pulled up to the school gate. Jessica headed straight toward the academic building, but halfway there she turned and asked, "You've got class at 10. Want to go?" I rubbed my still dizzy head and asked sheepishly, "Can I skip it?" Jessica let out a soft, mocking laugh. "Figures. Some people are just born allergic to class. Not even amnesia can cure that." I opened my mouth to defend myself, then thought better of it. She had a point. "I'll sign you in," she added, waving her hand lazily. "If you're not feeling well, just head back to the dorm and rest." I quickly thanked her. To my surprise, Jessica wasn't nearly as cold as she looked. I didn't understand why we had any bad blood before. Honestly, I kind of wanted to be friends with her. As I turned to head back, I heard a barely audible sigh behind me. "Actually, you weren't as bad as you think." I lay in my dorm room for a while, but even with my eyes closed, all I saw were bizarre fragmented scenes. Shards of memory I couldn't quite piece together, like a puppet with cut strings. I couldn't sleep. No one else was around, so I decided to go for a walk. Somehow, I ended up at the library. I was just finishing a reply to Jack, who had sent another string of caring messages. Then, on second thought, I added another line, "Thanks for always taking care of me before, brother." My phone was quiet for 2 seconds. Then came a rapid wave of message alerts, vibrating non-stop. I didn't even have time to open them before someone called out to me. "Joyce." Tim stood in front of me. He changed into a simple t-shirt, looking clean and relaxed. "Heading to the library?" he asked softly, his voice crisp and gentle. I hesitated. "Yeah," I thought, "since I fell down the stairs here, maybe coming back might help jog my memory." Tim nodded knowingly. "I'll come with you." The library was quiet, hardly anyone was around. Everyone was quietly focused on their books. I ran my hand along the stair railing. A girl's face flickered faintly through my mind. "Tim," I said quietly. "Henry told me this morning that Jessica and I had a falling out. Is that true?" Tim and I had been childhood friends, so of course he knew Jessica too. Jack would tell me only what I wanted to hear. Tim might be more honest. He frowned slightly. "Did you remember something?" I shook my head. "No, just this nagging feeling, unease, maybe." Tim followed me up to the outdoor terrace on the second floor. Only then did he begin to speak, slowly and carefully. Tim described my past with Jessica in a detached, almost clinical tone, like an impartial observer. We had grown up together, childhood playmates. But when we reunited in high school, things were completely different. It became a rivalry. I couldn't stand how my parents always praised Jessica. And every time someone complimented her beauty, I felt a bitterness rise within me. I began mocking her in front of others, weaponizing the fact that she was the housekeeper's daughter. Yet Jessica never took the bait. She treated me like a child throwing tantrums, which only made me angrier. Listening to Tim's calm recounting, I felt like crawling into a hole and never coming out. "What kind of person is Jessica, really?" I asked. Tim thought for a moment, eyes on the pages of his book. "I didn't interact with her much. She only ever played with you when we were kids. Then she transferred to a local school later on, so I didn't see her after that. But I remember you mentioned her a few times. You said you found her interesting. You looked genuinely happy when you talked about her. So I don't really know why things turned out the way they did. Tim wasn't someone who liked talking behind people's backs, so I didn't press him further. We sat quietly in the library together. All around us, the air was hushed and still. Outside, the plants were lush and green, like clouds of living mist, full of energy and promise. I looked at Tim, who was reading intently, and asked softly, "Back when I was awful, did you ever hate me?" In the few days since I'd lost my memory, I'd already begun to sense that Tim wasn't really as cold as he pretended to be. His hand paused on the page. He was quiet for a moment. "I wouldn't say I hated you," he said finally. "Just surprised." I looked down, slightly embarrassed. "I probably bullied you a lot too, huh?" Tim chuckled lightly, his tone soft. "Well, if running errands, buying lunch, saving seats, and letting you copy my homework count. But then you'd turn around and give me a gift I liked with a grumpy face. I suppose that's a unique kind of bullying." I lowered my head and mumbled, "What if? I never get my memories back." Just as I said it, a warm hand gently ruffled my hair. Tim's palm was warm and steady. "It's okay," he said softly. "Maybe someday, when you look back, you'll realize that this version of you is freer." He walked me back to the dorm building. By then, my phone was overflowing with messages from Jack. "Joyce, why are you suddenly saying stuff like that? I'm so touched I could cry. But listen, stay far away from Tim. You didn't like him before. Don't let him trick you. You once got drunk and babbled about how you'd never like him again. You even said he'd fall for the female lead one day. We're not hanging out with him, okay? Also, I'm flying to France tomorrow. Want me to bring you something?" Female lead. The moment I saw those 3 words, a sharp wave of dizziness hit me. The back of my head tingled. My heart pounded like a drum. And then, in my mind, a mechanical voice echoed, cold, sharp, and disturbingly familiar, "Host, long time no see." Like a dam bursting, memories flooded my brain. The forced identity of the evil supporting role. The mission to sabotage Jessica. The moments when my body moved on its own, humiliating Tim, insulting Jessica. One after another, scene by scene, like puzzle pieces snapping perfectly into place. It all began the day I met Jessica again in high school. That was when the voice appeared in my head for the first time. It said this world was a novel. Jessica was the heroine, Tim was the male lead. And I was a selfish, arrogant villainess. Jessica, it said, would rise from her humble beginnings as a housekeeper's daughter and become a dazzling white swan. She'd win over my parents' admiration, my brother's affection, and in the end, even take away my childhood fiancé. Jealousy took root in my heart. As the daughter of the powerful Green family, I was destined to battle her to the bitter end. At first, I tried to resist. I demanded to know why I had to be the villain. But the system only replied in that same emotionless tone, "Host. This is your role in the story. There can only be one heroine. If you don't fight for it, you'll always live in someone else's shadow. Even if she awakens as the female lead, she'll crush you first. Because you got to enjoy the heroine's life before she did, she won't forgive that." And so, under its control, I began living out the villain arc. The system gave me tasks: humiliate Jessica, sabotage her. I mocked her cheap clothing in front of everyone. Then, guilt-ridden, I secretly gave Aunt Lily a brand new dress, mumbling something vague like, "I don't like this one. Please get rid of it." A week later, Jessica wore it to school. From the shadows, I watched her glowing in the sunlight. A perfect little princess in white. White dresses do suit her best, I thought proudly. And yet, my eyes silently filled with tears. The system warned me that Jessica would eventually take my fiancé. So I had to move first. I pressured my parents to arrange our engagement. Like a puppet on strings, I forced it to happen. The system insisted on choosing the day. A day when Tim's grandfather was gravely ill. It claimed that was the only way to test whether Tim truly cared about me. He didn't show up, neither did I. I was too afraid to see the disappointment in his eyes. Or worse, his disgust. I tried to fix it afterward, but nothing I did could make up for what I'd become. I didn't want to keep living like this. As the person everyone hated. I begged the system to let me stop. But it coldly refused. You are the supporting role. Your task cannot be terminated. So I lived in constant fear. Day after day, until that moment I stepped wrong on the stairs in the library. My body fell hard to the ground. And in that split second, only one thought crossed my mind, at least now. I can finally rest. Task cannot be terminated. Host, your memory loss has already delayed progress. Please restart. Please restart. The system's voice droned on and on in my mind. I dropped to my knees and screamed, I don't want to do this anymore. And suddenly, I fell into a warm embrace. A soft scent of oranges reached my nose. The world quieted in an instant. And just like that, the system's voice was cut off. Abruptly, like someone had yanked its power cord out of the wall. Jessica held me in her arms, gently patting my back over and over as she softly comforted me. There. We're done with the mission now. She bit her lip, her voice quieter and more strained. I didn't know. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I was curled up in her embrace, but soon felt the sleeve of my shirt dampen. Drops of water soaking through it. Jessica? I blinked, startled, and quickly pushed her away. The system had warned me, if I acted out of character, it would punish me again. It's okay, she grabbed my wrist before I could move further, awkwardly trying to soothe me, her voice soft but firm, the game is over. I sat quietly in Jessica's dorm room. It was just the two of us. She poured me a glass of water. So, you were bound to a system too? You knew you were the heroine of the book? I held the cup in both hands, frowning. Jessica lowered her eyes and spoke gently, but I didn't know that being the heroine would come at the cost of forcing you into the role of a vicious supporting character. The system only told me that by binding as the heroine, I could rise from a nobody to someone admired. It lied. It told me people around me were untrustworthy. That I could only rely on myself. That I could only trust myself. The room fell into a heavy silence. So when you targeted me, mocked me, I endured it all. I thought maybe it was just because you were spoiled. Maybe you'd heard some unpleasant rumors and got angry or jealous. That was normal. No matter how over the top you became, to me, you were just a girl scared of losing her parents' love. But I never imagined you were being forced. She paused, then added lightly, oh, and don't worry. I have no feelings for Tim. I looked down, hiding my reddened eyes behind a sip of water. I was never jealous of you, I said softly. You've always been better than me. You're quiet, thoughtful, smart. You're graceful and sincere. Aunt Lily raised you well. When Mum and Dad praised you, I was genuinely happy. You were my childhood friend, Jessica. Even though we were apart for years, I know you, I'd never mistake who you really are. Jessica didn't say anything. Her lashes trembled slightly as she looked down. Suddenly, something clicked in my mind. Wait, what did you mean earlier by, the game is over? Exactly what it sounds like, she said casually. I ended the mission. You couldn't quit yours, but I could. I froze. Wait, then everything you did before doesn't matter, she said with a smile. So what if I didn't bind with the system? Would that really mean my life would be ruined? This world has always tried its best to pit women against each other. But I refused to play by its rules. After that day, it was as if Jessica's luck had completely turned. She began narrowly losing competitions she'd been sure to win, and even struggled to get her wages from part-time jobs. Eventually, Jack had to step in. He beat up her boss until the man looked like a pig. On the day Jessica finished her internship, I stayed home and cooked dinner for everyone. I was busy in the kitchen with Aunt Lily, and when Jack tried to help, I kicked him right back out, leaving only Tim to stay and lend a hand. Dinner's almost ready. Don't crowd the kitchen, I called. Jessica and Jack sat on the couch, watching the bustle through the kitchen doorway. Jack rubbed his ear, looking unbothered. I still don't really get why she changed, but it's kind of nice. Joyce, who had once been so pure and kind as a child. They'd never truly believed she'd gone bad. The only explanation they could come up with? She must have been possessed by something evil. Jessica raised a brow. If you like her, why don't you confess? Jack was caught off guard, speechless. That's like asking, if I like money, why don't I rob a bank? You think it's because I don't want to? Jessica smirked but said nothing. Jack muttered, you're weird too. Why do you always hang around my house anyway? Jessica took a sip of water, eyes downcast. It's definitely not because of you. Jack yawned. Well, at least I'm self-aware. Then he sighed. But aren't your parents pressuring you to date? Jessica stood up slowly, her voice calm. Not all love has to end in romance. You of all people should understand that. Besides, aren't you not dating anyone either? This time, Jack laughed. Exactly. After 10 or 20 years of shared history, how could a stranger in a few weeks or months ever replace that? Their eyes met. There was no romance between them, just a quiet understanding. A sympathy between two souls wandering the same shore. Dinner's ready. I came out of the kitchen, smiling brightly, a tray in my hands. Jessica, Tim, Jack, Aunt Lily, Henry, I made everyone's favorite dishes. Jessica and Jack exchanged a glance, then smiled helplessly. Oh well, what could they do? They could only pray that Tim lived long enough, so neither of them would ever have to take his place. And really, wasn't this kind of peace its own kind of happy ending? Looking at them all gathered around the table laughing, bickering, alive, I felt something warm bloom quietly in my chest. I may have lost my past, but in this moment, I knew I wasn't alone. And maybe, just maybe, I never had to be that villain again. And that's a wrap on today's reading here at Booked for Drama. If you felt anything, rage, swoon, second-hand heartbreak, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow drama lovers. If you have any requests, drop them in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, and keep the drama on the page.